Welcome to Awaken Your Canvas Within, consciously looking within ourselves for true well-being. My name is Kevin Benavides, and today on the podcast, I have Ione Butler. She is a British-born actress, host, voiceover artist, vlogger, and now also a podcast host. And I have her here with me today. Hi, Ione, how are you?
Hi, Kevin. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the podcast and doing this great thing about talking about depression.
My pleasure. Yeah, I think it's definitely a topic that people should talk about more openly because I feel it's something that a lot of people suffer with, but suffer in silence a lot of the time because it seems to be quite difficult to talk about.
Definitely. And basically, I caught a glimpse, not caught a glimpse. I saw your whole video that you posted online, talking about your depression, and that's how I basically saw your story. And I thought, as soon as I saw it, I just thought it was something I'd have to share through the podcast because one of the things that I do want to bring out with the podcast and also with my blog is all about mental well-being, and
Hmm.
doing it properly, integrating a holistic approach to it. And after
Hmm.
hearing watching your video, I knew definitely that you took a holistic approach to recovering. So I'm not sure how many of my listeners are have actually seen the video. So I was wondering if you can just take a minute or two and let the listeners know what you went through with your depression and how you eventually started to recover and heal yourself.
Certainly, yeah. Well, so I did a video, basically a 20-minute video talking about depression. The reason that I'd done it was because one of my a friend of a friend was visiting. He was from England. He was visiting my girlfriend in LA, and he was suffering really badly from depression. And she knew this, and she was finding it really difficult to talk to him. And she kept trying to say to him, you should speak to Ione because she's gone through that. And as a guy who didn't know me very well, he just wasn't willing to do it. And so and then a couple of days later, I found out that one of my really close friends, her brother had committed suicide. And so it just really, I just felt like I had to do something to try and communicate with people that were dealing with this, and just allow something that they could watch or hear or be able to get something from that meant they didn't have to go and speak to somebody that they didn't know, which I think is some of the problem sometimes. But in the video I talk about my sort of history of depression. I think that I suffered a lot with it when I was younger. I just always felt very sad, very lonely, very down. Um, and I think the real thing that started to change, I also felt I was just fed up. Like I just didn't want to be sad all the time. I didn't understand why I was sad all the time. And I remember
Hmm.
just trying a bunch of things. I went and saw therapists. I remember going to the doctors and just saying, like, could you just please give me antidepressants, just please? And the doctor just said, why? And I just said, because I'm just tired of feeling sad. Like I just don't know what to do to not feel sad anymore. And so I tried antidepressants for a while, which I wasn't really a fan of. But the real thing that started to shift, things really started to change in about 2012, where I started a business. And I don't even do the business anymore, but a huge part of it was personal development. And every single day they said, like, your business will grow as much as you grow. You need to be reading 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, books about mindset, goals, finance, about the business, basically just starting to transform the way you think every day. And that had
Hmm.
like an almost instantaneous impact on me because it was the first time that I started to realize that my thoughts, that I had control over my thoughts. And like looking back now at the things that I used to think and say to myself, my mantra back in the day was, I hate myself. I hate myself. I'd think about things that I've done, that I had done with just cringing. Just it was just I would just put myself through this horrible stuff all the
You're
time.
basically just punishing yourself all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
punishing myself, saying the most vile, horrible things to myself that if anybody else had said that, I would have been mortified. And yet we say these things to ourselves on a daily basis that you would never utter to anybody else. And so it was realizing that that was what I was doing and that I had the power to change the things that I said to myself.
Hmm.
That was when the transformation really started to kick in.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of reading, continual reading, stopped watching the news, because I just found that it left me just hopeless and upset every time. What other stuff did I do? I just started to kind of look at who I was surrounding myself with. In the car, driving around, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and then just starting to replace the thoughts that I was having with the negative, horrible, nasty things with empowering,
Positive
positive,
ones, yeah.
yeah, learning about stuff. And that had a big difference.
Yeah. What was one of I'd say one of the first books that you read that really started changing it for you, helping you out?
Well, I'd always had an interest in books, but before I started the business, I had found How to Win Friends and Influence People in a book by Dale Carnegie
Hmm.
in it was like a thrift store, I think, when I was really young. And I think that was the first personal development book I ever read, and I absolutely love it. The title's horrendous because it makes it sound as if you're kind of like desperately trying to be popular, but that's not what it's about at all. It's about how to best connect with people and how to be with people. And it's things like don't judge, criticize, and condemn. Like I'm gonna paraphrase it and make it my own words,
Yeah.
something different to that. But that's pretty much the thing. Like, why do you feel the need to tell people that they're wrong? Why do you always have to have the last word? If you are like remembering simple things like remembering people's names because it's the sweetest sound to them, asking people questions, not making everything about you and talking about you.
Hmm.
And so that book was just brilliant, and that kind of was that like intro into stuff. And then I read The Secret, like my aunt had it, and I read The Secret, was like, this is amazing. But I think the problem with The Secret is it's all very, thoughts, think that things are going to
And
happen.
it's gonna happen
I
all
would,
of a
and
sudden.
then it's going to pop up and happen. I remember thinking really hard and stuff didn't happen. I got really upset about the whole thing. But I did get something from that book. But then when it came to doing the business stuff, The Power of Now was a book that really, by Eckhart Tolle, was a book that really registered with me because he talks a lot about the ego and that voice in your head,
Yep.
the one that sort of does all the talking, and realizing that that isn't who we are was just like mind blowing
Yeah, definitely.
because that voice in your head, the one that if somebody ignores you, and it's like, how dare they? Like, what is that person's problem that's ignoring me? I did this, or was it this? Are they annoyed because I ignored them the other day? And it's that madness of
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
like incessant thought that is so destructive
Yeah.
within most people. And so for me, it was just realizing that all that just crazy stupidness in
Started
my head.
working through your thoughts basically with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking them as what they were, which were thoughts, not
Not
real.
who you really are basically.
Exactly that.
Yeah, and that was actually the first book that I started reading on my recovery from anxiety.
Mm.
When I started meditating, right after I started meditating, my meditation teacher said, "Why don't you watch this video?" It was an Eckhart Tolle video on YouTube, and I watched the video, and right away it connected. I was just like, "Oh my goodness! Like, why didn't anybody tell me these things before?" Kind of.
Mm,
And then
mm-hmm.
from there, I Googled his name and seen, The Power Now, the book. And I went out, bought the book, and I read it in like a couple of days. And it just changed my life right then and there. Like after I read that book, I knew that I can do this. I knew that I can heal myself, like start um, living a different life. And because I was so in my mind,
Yeah.
I learned how to get out of my mind just through that book. Just start that started with that book, and then it went from
Mm.
there. But yeah, definitely same thing here. That book made a big difference in my life.
Yeah, I remember when I read it, I get into the habit of reading at night and in the morning. I need to get back on it again, so I'm not being as consistent. But I do remember that when I was reading it, just relief, just like relief of understanding. And every day I read it, it would be such an enjoyable experience. But interestingly enough, I go back to it now and again and read it again because it's very wordy and it's kind of quite heavy.
It definitely
And
is,
I've
yeah.
yeah, and I've read it again, and sometimes just things don't resonate and don't sit very well. So my advice to anybody who reads that book is if you pick it up and it's just like words and none of them are sticking in your head, just keep going. Whatever jumps out that resonates with you, stick to it. If it's like just not going to happen, put it
Put it
down and
down.
come back to it again because
Exactly.
there's definitely, yeah, don't give up on it. But because I've had that where it's just everything has landed, and then I've read it again where I just
It
nothing
didn't.
means anything. So
Yeah, for me, I found that after maybe the second read or third read, I started to understand it more.
mm,
So that's what
mm,
when I tell other people to read that book, like for advice, I say, your first read might not be the greatest because just the way the words are, but just give it a
Mm,
chance. If read it once, maybe read the chapter a second time, and you might start understanding a little bit better because of the wording. But other than
mm.
that, if you once it does connect with you, then yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. I also wanted to ask you, in your video you were talking about antidepressants and
Mm,
how afterwards you realized that they were horrible and they weren't really helping you out. So I wanted
mm.
to ask you, in your opinion, why do you think antidepressant drugs do harm to your health?
It's a good question, and I actually in my video I made a post because I had a few people comment on, antidepressants are saving my life,
Hmm.
or somebody was saying that I know somebody that came off antidepressants and they killed themselves, and so stuff like that had
Yeah,
happened, and so the video is purely my experience. I've said that a bunch of
definitely,
times,
definitely.
and I feel like there are cases of mental illness where
It does help out.
medication and drugs is necessary.
Yeah,
And so that kind of scale of severe mental disorder, I know nothing about, and I'm not commenting
exactly. But it was
on.
only your
But I feel,
experience, right?
yeah, but I feel like specifically in my experience, and I feel like for most people who are suffering with kind of non-life-threatening suicidal depression, most people shouldn't be taking antidepressants because it's something that you can deal with by just learning to understand your mind and talking about it. And I just feel like, especially in America, everyone's very quick just to medicate, and like the statistics of people on antidepressants
It's
are
crazy.
quite frankly
Yeah,
terrifying. And the reason that I didn't like them personally is because, one, and I said this in my video, there's no real hard and fast way of guaranteeing that you're giving people the right amount of drugs and the right drug. I was on some kind of antidepressants and I just found them horrible. And I was speaking to a psychiatrist, and they told me that, was it a psychiatrist or a psychologist? One of those brain people. And I explained sort of what happened when I was on these drugs. I was kind of just, I would drink and then just lose it, and I was just becoming this like really crazy angry monster person. And he said to me, and I told him what drugs I was on, and he said, "Oh, you shouldn't be on ones for depression. It sounds like what you have is more anxiety." And I was like, "Okay." And that's the thing. It's all very well, let's just sort of see what we're going to give you, and like try this much and maybe try that much. And I just feel like there needs to be more care before prescribing drugs that alter your
yeah,
brain.
definitely.
Um, and more of it, and much more. And I've said this in comments as well, even more so, do not just give people drugs and expect that to make depression go
Go away
away.
just
Like,
just from the
yeah,
drug,
yeah, the drugs suppress the symptoms. They don't deal with the
the
cause,
underlying
which is
cause
whatever it is that's caused you that in the first place. So even if you're on them, you should be working constantly
on
on
yourself.
getting your head in the right place.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
When I went to the doctor the first time and let them know that I was having experiencing anxiety, I basically was in there for a minute, and the first thing the doctor said was, "Oh, well, I can give you this drug, take it for the rest of your life, and you'll feel great." And I was like,
Ah.
"Oh my goodness!" Like you haven't even like thinking about it afterwards. It was like, wait a sec, you didn't assess me, you didn't ask any other
That's
questions, you didn't send me to any other doctor, a psychiatrist, nothing. It was just like, here, take this drug, and you'll be fine. It
yeah.
wasn't like anything else, and it was just that easy push of just take the drug, and it was, just wrong. That's the wrong part about it. Like
Yeah.
it can be used in conjunction, but just to say, here, take this drug
Just take it and
is,
be done with it.
yeah, is not
And
right.
the effects that I had, I said that I lost my sex drive, and I just found that I was just very numb.
Hmm.
And I don't think that taking, I don't, I can't remember. I watched there's a video, I think there's a TED talk, or there's something about that, about how antidepressants are dangerous because you're stopping people from feeling. And people that are suffering with depression need to be able to you need to be able to feel and
Feel
connect
some,
to
yeah,
people.
exactly.
And if you're taking drugs that inhibit that, that's not a good place to be.
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
I'm personally not a fan of them, but I do think that they are necessary in some situations.
Definitely, there's different cases, right? There's different extremes,
Yeah.
basically. Everybody
Hmm.
has it differently, and some people have it to the extreme, and then, but like you said, I think a lot of people who do get a mental illness, whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever it is, for the most part, it's something that can be treated naturally,
Mm,
and it's just knowing, and it's just getting the knowledge of that you can do this on your own, not on your own, but you can do it for
Without taking
yourself.
drugs.
Yeah, without
Yeah.
taking drugs, basically. Yeah.
Mm.
But on the flip side, when you're done when after you started feeling better and the depression wore off, and like you said a couple of years ago, everything started changing and you started feeling better about yourself. I wanted to ask is, like how important was gratitude in your daily life? In your daily life now, are you grateful for things compared to before when you were in the depression?
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke, I think gratitude is everything. I think on my Twitter, I've got like something that's the root of all joy, what it was, or the root of all joy is gratefulness and gratitude. And then I spoke in the video about how when I was depressed, I knew that gratitude was important,
Hmm.
and I just couldn't think of anything to be grateful for. So I would sit there being, saying things like, "Ugh, well, I'm all right looking, I'm an okay actor," and it was with this just
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, I've got my family or whatever," and it just wasn't grateful. And then like now it's everything, absolutely everything. And it's not like I don't wake up in the morning and write a list of things I'm grateful for, which I should, because I think it's a fantastic thing to do. But it's like little things. Like I leased a car at the beginning of last year, and my first car in LA was just this old heap of crap. And there was a problem filling up the gas thing. It would take me like 20 minutes to fill my car up with gas, and it was just the most annoying thing in the world. And I'd be standing there sweating in the sun before an audition, getting really stressed out.
Hmm.
And then every time, so like now, every time I fill my car up, I'm just so grateful that I can just fill my car up with gas. Like stupid things like that. I've been doing a Game of Thrones binge watching session. And every time I see stuff about how women were treated back in the day, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's a horrible thing to think about, but I'm just
Feel
so
grateful for
grateful that
that now. Yeah.
I've not lived, that I'm a woman who lives somewhere where I'm not at risk of being raped every day,
Exactly.
where I was born to parents who allowed me to pursue my dream of acting and let me move to America, that didn't sell me off to be married to somebody. There's just so much.
To be
Like,
grateful in your
yeah,
daily life. Yeah.
our eyesight, our limbs are like everything. Um, everything. And even like, and I say, like, even things that are bad that can happen, you can find the good in those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Definitely. When we become grateful on a daily basis about even like you said the little things, then you start to value life
Yeah.
more and more, right? And you start to see the good in a lot of things, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure, for sure. Now, in regards to maybe some of the listeners that are listening to this right now, if any of them are feeling depressed or just down on themselves, what would you recommend them to do to start feeling better?
Um, I think there's first things that you can do that are really simple, which is just monitoring what is going into your mind. And so, I've had some people that like obviously things like going and getting some professional help by people who can and talk to you and deal with this. Sometimes that takes money. You might not know where to go for that kind of stuff. But things that you can do instantly, I find, is one, stop watching the news,
Yeah,
and then two, start replacing everything that gets into your mind with positive, uplifting things. So it's things like TED Talks, podcasts, audiobooks, books, and just surrounding yourself with content that makes you feel better.
yeah,
Like honestly, I remember, and with depression it comes and goes. Like I still have really low times. I just now I know how to deal with them better. And there was a time maybe last year, I think, and I just was really low and I just didn't know what to do. I couldn't get out of bed. So I ended up just watching two documentaries. One was called I Am on Netflix, which is amazing, and one was called Happy. And it helped. Like it didn't like immediately switch stuff around,
but
but
it
it's just
started.
like, what do I need? I
Yeah,
need something that reminds me of the joy of life right now. I need to, or if you've got a passion, if you're a performer, or if there's something you really enjoy doing, go out and do it. Like do the thing that you love. So I'll go and watch movies to get inspired by amazing actors, or I'll like get into class. Exercise, I think, is huge. Like that needs to be something that you're doing. And I know when you're feeling low, it's really difficult to want to exercise because you just don't want to do it.
yeah,
But it is
it's very
huge.
important.
It's huge. Like get a group on, find a video online of yoga. Um, just get out and go for a run or a walk or a hike.
Yeah,
Like just walking makes a difference.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think, and then also not shutting yourself off. I say, like, sometimes you just need to do it. Sometimes you just need to be there and wallow in it and just like whatever, because it's exhausting and it's hard work. But when you are ready, you need to just to decide, right, I'm gonna connect with somebody. I don't really want to, but I'm gonna call a friend, or I'm gonna go and see somebody. I'm gonna ask someone for help, or
Yeah,
just
it's
get yourself out.
definitely like what you just said. I think it's important to speak up and say something to somebody that you're not
Yeah.
feeling that well, because um, normally we just close ourselves off to the outside world, and you just,
Mm,
bask in your in the darkness basically. But
mm,
when you're able to go and talk to somebody, even if it's just a friend, a spouse,
mm.
anybody, and just open up, it's so much more helpful. But that's the thing, is some people don't do that because they don't want to be judged. They don't think people understand what they're going through.
Mm.
So yeah, that's
But the
basic.
interesting,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say the interesting thing from doing the video is the response was just so ridiculously overwhelmingly positive. Um, and I had so many friends come up to me and, I saw your video. I've been suffering with depression for years. Friends that I would have no idea would be dealing with depression coming up to me and saying things like that.
Yeah,
One of my godmother sent me a message the other day saying, I've just seen it, and she's the most happy, upbeat, like, person. I had no idea. So you'd be surprised just by talking. There's people who don't get it and you don't understand, and that's fine. And I've had friends that don't get it, but they love you and they still want to try.
exactly.
And then you'd just be surprised at the amount of people who are experiencing the same thing,
Yeah,
and you think that you're the only one. You're really not. You're really not.
yeah. A lot of people do go through it,
Mm.
throughout their
And need
lives.
someone to. Yeah.
Yeah, throughout their lives. And one of the reasons for me doing the blog, The Canvas Within, and this podcast is for that, to so people can see that it's you're not a weirdo, or you're not different than other
You're not
people.
alone.
You're not alone. No,
Yeah.
that's basically it. You're that A lot of people go through this, and you can get through it.
Mm.
Just being having a support network, I think, is great too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so definitely, that's very important. Um, but I think that uh, what happens is we start looking for happiness outside of ourselves. I think from an
Mm.
early age in life, we look for happiness outside of ourselves in
Yeah.
external things, and we always end up being disappointed because these things flow away, right? And
Yeah.
things are constantly changing, and when we seek their happiness through these changeful things, sometimes we get sad, because we're like, we want to be happy in relationship, and then the relationship goes bad, and
Yeah.
on and on. But definitely, I think you can contest to this, that happiness starts from within ourselves, right?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was, for me, that was a big revelation. I remember a lot when I was younger thinking, when I'm a famous actress, my life will be great, or when I have a boyfriend, things will be good, or when I have all of this stuff. And it's wrong. Like, there will never be when I am this, it's this. And like you say, everything is fleeting, so you'll get it and it might come, it might go.
yeah,
Like, you have the potential, you have everything you need right now to experience joy. And by thinking that when I have this, I'll be happy, all you're doing is denying yourself the time to be happy now, because you're which is crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Um, so yeah, being present, being in the moment, being grateful for what you have rather than thinking what you will have is going to cause the happiness.
yeah.
It's a big lesson, and it's so important.
Yeah, definitely. Basically, I've been wrapping up the podcast with a certain question, so I was wondering if I can ask that to you. Basically, start off by saying that. So the analogy behind the canvas within is that, within every human being, we have a canvas within ourselves that we have to paint daily, and
Mm,
some days we paint it with dark colors. Some days we paint it with brighter colors, like love and compassion, and those colors are more, red and pink. That's the way I see it. Fear would be more of a darker color, like black or dark blue. So I wanted to know, ask you, is What colors do you use on your canvas on a daily basis to have a positive day?
What my canvas colors? I'm all about my favorite colors are sunset colors, like sunset or sunrise colors,
Hmm.
sky colors. Look in the sky on a good day or the sunset, and I think that would be my canvas colors.
Yeah,
Like a bad day would be what it is right now in LA, raining
raining.
and all grey. And in England, most of the time it's grey and miserable. But yeah, but yeah, you could have blues and yellows and oranges and pinks.
Yeah, and what
Um,
emotion would you say, or emotions would you say go along with those bright colors?
I think yeah, just joy and peace. I don't know if peace is an emotion, but um, just love and yeah, hope and happiness and
That's perfect.
just nice warm things.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I love it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I think it's just a brilliant topic to have as a podcast. I hope that, yeah, people are enjoying
Thank
it.
you. I hope so too, and I hope a lot of
Yeah,
people get to hear this, and hopefully
definitely.
makes a difference in somebody's life out there. Hopefully more than one, but
Def
at least if it's just
yeah,
one, we've done our job, right?
exactly. Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day and being on the podcast, and I hope the the best happiness and all the happiness in the world to you. And
Oh,
hopefully we'll be able to speak another time on the podcast
that
in the
would be
future.
great. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Ione.
for having me.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.